Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Salma Khalaf. I grew up in Lebanon as a Palestinian refugee, and for as long as I can remember, I have carried one question with me. What future do Palestinians imagine for our homeland? In 2022, I received funding through a fellowship, and I traveled mainly to Europe and Turkey, searching for the answer, listening to Palestinians in the European continent and in Turkey specifically. But I couldn't finish the project. The genocide in Gaza changed everything. Today, I'm returning to it, and this time we're building something bigger. Welcome to We the Palestinians, a space where we don't just document our past, but finally archive our vision for the future of Palestine. For decades, our stories have been about displacement, loss, and survival, but this channel holds something different. Our visions for the future we deserve, for the systems we want to build, the leaders we hope to raise. And every interview will ask the same fundamental question. What does a free future for Palestine look like? Today, we begin with the foundation of any liberated society, which is education. Our first conversation is with Samah Al Sabbagh, an educator, a leader, and a visionary who has dedicated her life to building pathways for Palestinian students. This is the beginning of an archive for us, by us, about the future we will create. Welcome to We the Palestinians and welcome Samah. Thank you so much for being here. This is the very first interview, which is very exciting. Our conversation will become part of a larger archive that imagines what a just, free future could look like for all of us. I will be starting with a few grounding questions that I will be asking every Palestinian I will host. The
Mhm.
first one is if you could choose one word to describe the future you imagine for Palestine, what would it be?
Fruitful. I
Fruitful.
think I would choose hopeful, fruitful.
Okay.
Inshallah, that's how I see things. Hopefully, at some point, at some point, inshallah.
I like that. Which city in Palestine are you or your family originally from?
Actually, my father is from Gaza, and my mother is from Jora, Asqalan.
Okay.
So she's from the 48 lands.
Hmm. Okay, perfect. And where are you currently based? You don't have to share the name of the city. You can maybe just say the name of the country or the province.
Yeah, I'm currently in Canada, Ontario, specifically. I've been living here for a long time. I grew up in this country as well. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Samah. Now, before we dive in, I'd love for you to introduce yourself in your own words. If you could tell us just a little about who you are and whatever you feel comfortable sharing about your journey.
Yes, definitely, Salma. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I really hope that this sees light and it progresses to what you would like it to look like, inshallah. My name is Samah Al Sabbagh. I'm a Palestinian Canadian. Well, growing up here, I used to say Canadian Palestinian, but then I learned through experience that I am a Palestinian Canadian. My
Mhm.
Palestinian identity becomes before any other identity that I hold within me. I grew up in Canada, but I was born in Kuwait. So, as the life of a Palestinian who have lost their land and so many families. I have so many families all over the world. I have aunts in Australia and in US and Libya and Canada and I have a family in Gaza. I have it's the life of a Palestinian. We were kicked out of our homes, our land, and our parents had to seek refuge outside, had to look for jobs, look for a life to start for their family. My father chose Kuwait to be where he was. He went young. He left Gaza when he was 16, actually. It's
Oh,
of course every parent that we have is part of the resistance, I guess if you want to say it that way.
yeah.
So I was born in Kuwait. I lived there for about 12 years. I was there. So I wasn't there during the wars and intifadas in Gaza, but unfortunately, I was there during the Iraq and Kuwait the war on Kuwait with Iraq. So that was itself another experience, and it's just another proof that Palestinians, wherever they go, they are always the first nation to be hit, the first nation to suffer from any war, from any situation, anything that goes wrong in the world. Palestinians are the first ones to suffer. And practically, that's probably because we have no country, we have no back. And that makes us very vulnerable as Palestinians. So just like any other Palestinian, we couldn't actually enter into universities where we were living in Kuwait. As for any other Gulf country, it was really hard for a non-national to actually get accepted and study there at university. So my parents were thinking ahead, and my father decided to immigrate to Canada in 1989, I think, 88, 89, we started the process.
Wow.
And then the war happened in Kuwait, and then we had to wait around for until everything was done and our biometrics are in, and we did everything, and we ended up leaving Kuwait a year after the war, so a year after the independence, and we came to Canada, and Canada has become our home since 1992. So I've been here a while, but as a Palestinian Canadian, we did go through a lot. Living in Kuwait was also going through a lot because again, you are not a national, so
Mhm.
you're always second class. You're always afraid. You're always not sure when will be the next day that you will. Our parents could lose their job and we could leave. Of course, we didn't understand that until we grew up. And so Canada was supposed to be the sacred place, the home, the one that nobody can actually kick us out of. And we came here and we started our life here. And then as I was growing up, I started to realize that, I'm different. I'm treated different because I look different. Um, Luckily, I didn't look very different because I do have fair skin and I didn't have the hijab on. So they always, and we had growing up where I grew up, there was always a big community of a Greek community. And so everyone
Mhm.
thought I was Greek for a very long time over there. And I would have to tell you, my mom would have been the only person in the whole city with a hijab on, my mom and
Wow.
my aunt. So they were the only two in the whole city that had the hijab on. So that was really hard. But you had to persevere. As a Palestinian, you always have to persevere. You always have
Mhm.
to prove yourself. You always have to work hard to show how strong you are and how capable you are as a Palestinian. And that's exactly what happened in my case. I finished high school. I went into university. I went through university, and as you've mentioned, I'm an educator now. I'm currently doing my PhD in education leadership. And guess what I'm doing my PhD in education leadership about?
What is it? It has
It's
to be about Palestine.
not necessarily specifically about Palestine, but it's about the underrepresentation of racialized school leaders, school principals in Ontario K to 12 public system.
Hmm.
Because as you know, Ontario has been known for becoming a very multicultural city,
Hmm.
sorry, province, and and so we have a growing number of racialized students, but yet the number of racialized teachers is not as where it should be. Although
Hmm.
we do have educators who are racialized in the education system. And likewise, we have less and less percentage of racialized educators become school leaders, and
Okay.
that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, so my whole experience and my whole outlook in life has always been social justice, and that's what my PhD is about: critical policy, equity, and leadership studies. leadership education, sorry.
MashaAllah, Sabah, that's it's such a beautiful way that you've narrated your own story, walking us through your family's history and then moving between different countries. Truly, that's the story of most of Palestinians in the diaspora. We're constantly moving between one country to the other, seeking what we call home, I guess, or a place that we feel that we belong to. And I love how you started by saying, um, you used to identify as, or you used to say you're a Canadian Palestinian, and now Palestinian comes first because we are Palestinians, and whatever other nationalities we get, they just come second, and Palestine will always be home. And since this project centers Palestine's future during and after liberation, I will begin my questions by looking ahead, exploring the future of Palestinian education. And then we will work our way backwards, highlighting more of your experiences, the moments that shaped you, and the expertise behind your vision. So, my first question is, if Palestine was freed tomorrow, which is such a big statement, and inshallah, Palestine will be freed during our lifetime, what is the first change that you would want Palestinian students to experience in their schools?
Yeah, sorry. So the my phone is not recording anymore. Just to let you know, I think I have full
Full storage
full
happens.
storage. I'm sorry. So that's not
Don't
gonna
worry about it.
work. So
Don't
we'll
worry
just
about it.
keep here. Sorry. Can you just repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
Sure.
I was
Um,
preoccupied looking for how to fix this, but
I mean, tech has always to, get in the way. So my first question was if Palestine was freed tomorrow, which
yeah,
is a dream, inshallah, it happens during our lifetime. What
yeah.
is the first change that you would want Palestinian students to experience in their schools?
Safety.
Safety.
My God, I think the first and most important need that the Palestinians have to feel and should feel, and obviously, according to the Maslow's pyramid of needs,
Hmm.
of course, after the basic needs of getting them fed, getting them shelter, is that feeling of safety, which is very, very hard to find in Gaza.
Hmm.
And although we have ceasefire right now, there's still bombings. There's still there is no security there. There's no there's the promise has never gone through in terms of ceasefire, in terms of okay, we're gonna stop this, let's have peace. There's no peace, literally since the day that Palestine has been taken over until today,
Hmm.
76 years plus, there has never been peace in Palestine. And so I think the most important aspect that those students need is that feeling of safety,
Hmm.
feeling that they will wake up tomorrow without, they will sleep tonight and not worry about not waking up the next day or not losing someone they love the next day. I think that's the most important at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. And for us as Palestinians to be able to like learn and create, we need to, any human being needs to feel safety. And as you said, according to the pyramid of necessities, food and water and safety comes first, and then everything else follows 100%. And this leads to my second question, which is if you could redesign the system, the education system from scratch, what core values must shape education in a free Palestine? And I'm talking in a world where we don't have genocide anymore and we don't have occupation anymore, how would you reshape this educational system?
The educational system is a very, very important system for development in any country. I mean, the first thing, I mean, you always have NGOs. You have NGOs that are first aid. They are the ones that take care of food and water and clean water and sanitation. And those are really important things. Don't get me wrong. I mean, to for situations or environments where there was war or natural disaster. Those things are important, but in order to sustain and really support any country that's restructuring, is always been education. Throughout my career as an educator, I also worked in an NGO. And so I've always been into education on its own and just mainstream education. But working for this NGO was the first time I had the chance I was lucky to be working for education after emergencies or in emergencies and after disasters. So the main if you want to call structure or pillar in reestablishing any country after disasters or after wars is always education. Educating youth, bringing back schooling, bringing because that's what brings back the system.
Mhm.
This is what brings the kids back into schools to learn what it is that they need to rebuild their country. And a lot of the work that we did also working there, I mean, I've flown to Indonesia. We've worked with schools there. We've worked with universities there as well, not just to rebuild schools, but also to train teachers on, better pedagogy in education and how to really teach and make schooling very not fun, but very amusing and really get the children to love education and educate themselves. And even when we did skill-based teaching in those countries, it was based on what that country has, what this country has been known for.
Mhm.
Even the schools that we build, we don't just send in, for example, our team to that country and work with UN agencies that are working there, because we know we have UNICEF,
Mhm.
we have all those UN agencies. But what we did is no, we were working with
Mhm.
development agencies within the country,
Mhm.
and part of that is also educating them and helping them sustain themselves, because at the end of the day, a country will not improve, and it will not really sustain itself unless you actually give them the tools to do that. You can't just keep sending support, food and water, and those are important, but what's most important, what's next? A
Mhm.
country or countries cannot keep supporting other countries. But what we can do is work to build the capacity. That's the
Mhm.
word that I was looking for. Build the capacity of that country in
Mhm.
order for that country to actually start producing and reproducing and really use their talents and their skills to actually uplift their nation. And I think in Palestine, this is the most important thing to do, is to go back and rebuild the education system, bring back classrooms. And again, I would always go back and say the number one item that has to be addressed is their safety.
Mhm.
And obviously, we have to work on the trauma that they've been subjected to for more than 2 years now. But again, the number one ingredient for the success of any country in development is education for development. And this is what I love, and this is my journey, because it kind of brings two together. It brings education, which is my passion, and it also brings together helping others and supporting
Mhm.
nations, and combining those two together is really what I always love to do, to be honest.
I love the phrase education for development, and I like how I 100% agree. Basically, sending in aid constantly or just help, it's just like putting a band-aid on the problem.
Yeah.
That's not what Palestine needs. I feel like ending the occupation, ending the genocide, ending the siege in Gaza are definitely they're big steps, but they are the steps necessary to end this cycle of of pain and to start actually focusing on things like education. And I know from your experience that you were a principal in a local school at your city. And so I wanted to ask from your experience, if Palestinian students could choose what they learn, what subjects or skills would you prioritize for them? I know that you, in your previous answer, just mentioned skills for development. Maybe if you could highlight what these skills are.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's always this skills needed,
Hmm.
specifically when you're trying to restructure the society that has been destroyed.
Hmm.
You need people that are working on the roads. You need people that are working in hospitals. You need tech people. You need IT. You need construction. You need all of those like hands-on um, 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 hands-on support
Hmm.
and hands-on individuals to actually learn to do that.
Hmm.
And that also takes a lot. I mean, some of those youth or some of those kids. I mean, and I'm not talking about the kids. I'm not
Hmm.
talking about the school age kids, because school age kids should be where they should be,
Yeah.
which is at school learning, learning to read, learning to write, um, learning about the history, because I think history is important.
Hmm.
One subject that I really never liked when I was in high school and when I was in primary school here is history. But to be honest, history
Hmm.
is what really teaches us on how to proceed, and
Hmm.
it really give us the understanding of predicting what could happen next from things that happened before. So I believe history is very, very important.
Hmm.
And teaching students history and the history of Palestine and the history of their ancestors, and the different cultural aspects of being a Palestinian is very, very important. And honestly, to me, as when I was the principal, one of the first things that I always wanted to do is grow that because they all came with ideas, right? They
Hmm.
all wanted to help. All the students in the school, they wanted to help Palestine. So you
Hmm.
get a lot of students who say, okay, I'm going to make this and sell it. I'm going to make this and auction it. Or can I
Hmm.
bring those in? I'm going to make them with my hand, bring them. Can I sell them and fundraise? They were all thinking of fundraising and fundraising. What can I do to fundraise? How can I help? And that's the number one thing that I always made sure I is to give them that support, that they can make a difference. Give them the space to actually express themselves in a meaningful way, in a helpful way. Because otherwise, those children will always carry this anger inside of them. The anger of, oh my God, my aunt just got killed, and my uncle, and my grandparents, because we had those. I mean, in our schools, because there are many Palestinian students within Canada working, studying in the education system. And those kids need that support because they feel angered from inside. They feel like they need to do something. And we as educators should give them that space to express themselves in a safe way, whether to write a poem, whether to do fundraising, whether to write a song, whether to make a play. I think school is a safe environment for them to express themselves. So history, an environment for them to express themselves, I think are very, very important skills to teach our kids who are at school age, in terms of youth and in terms of teenagers. And we do need to teach them high level skills and handy skills so they are able to rebuild Gaza back again, and regain that feeling that they had, that feeling of safety, that well, they never had that feeling of safety, but at least they were living, and they had homes, and they had warm homes, and it was a beautiful city. I mean, I see pictures
Hmm.
sometimes from relatives who just share pictures of how their homes were before October 7th.
Yeah.
and how they're destroyed now. And you look and you're like, oh my God, wow, they were developed, they were beautiful homes, they were nicely structured, they were beautifully decorated. So yeah, I think this is in my opinion the most important, I guess.
I love that. I feel like we cannot move into a future without knowing our history. I know that usually they say if you don't know the history, it's going to repeat itself. Unfortunately, we know parts of the history, like the Holocaust and like other genocides that happened throughout history, and then we see what's happening in Gaza. But I feel like for us as Palestinians to move forward and to sort of build after liberation, we 100% should be aware of our history. This leads
And
me.
and if we weren't, Salma,
Mhm.
a lot of those people in Gaza would have left. But because they
Mhm.
know, because of what happened in 1948 and
Mhm.
what happened in 1967, and
Mhm.
they were asked to leave and they will be brought back and so on and
Yeah.
so forth. No, they learned the lesson. They know the history. They know this is not going to happen. So yeah,
I love this. No, 100%. And that's why we see lots of Palestinians in Gaza refusing to leave their homes. They know that history is repeating itself again.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and this leads me to my other question, which is if Palestinian educators, like yourself, could collaborate freely, and we're talking about educators not just in on Turtle Island, but also educators in Palestine and elsewhere throughout the world, what would this collaboration look like in your opinion? Or in your vision, what if you envision it?
Oh, my vision is to bring back education. Oh my God, we would have webinars, we would have meetings, collaborations with different educators, and I'm pretty sure a lot of educators would want to even do this for free. They would want to
Yeah,
put their time and their effort to bring back the education system. You're looking at curriculum because all of that is gone, literally gone. I mean, there's nothing left. There are no schools left in Gaza right now.
yeah,
So all of this has to be rebuilt. But before rebuilding kitchens, I think, sorry, before rebuilding structures,
yeah.
we have to start rebuilding people. So we need to focus on teachers and teacher preparations and curriculum that is a sound curriculum that really speaks to the Palestinian culture and speaks to the Palestinian identity that we need to enforce. It's not just math and science, because unfortunately, a lot of people think that this is where success is. You need math, you need science, otherwise you don't need all these other things. But those other things are what make you who you are as a person, as a Palestinian. And I think a lot of educators would collaborate. And I could see it, Salma. I could see, like, math teachers getting together, working on preparing committees to work on curriculum for math and just building on it for every grade. And, kind of like do the whole curriculum planning and for the different subjects and trainings for principals and for leaders, and how to lead with compassion, how to bring back that safety to the hearts of the kids, to the teachers, to bring them back strong so they can really pull forward and really pull those new generations up and lift them up so they are ready to face the future that they have.
I love how you said a lot of them would do it freely. And I feel like that's what we do also as activists, right? Like we're
Yeah,
constantly volunteering our time, whatever resources we have, whether I know for you, Samah, you're very much an activist and a president of a local Palestinian group here in the city that you're in.
yeah,
And I know how much effort and time and resources you put in, and it's all volunteer work. And I think, as you said, it's going to be the same if we allow educators around the world to collaborate for Palestine. I'm sure lots of them would do it for free, as you mentioned. It's funny how you said it. It just reminded me of like even now as activists, we do lots,
yeah.
yeah, for
Definitely.
Palestine.
And nothing will move on or progress or develop if we don't have people who are working from their heart.
100%. Yeah.
And, volunteer work is work from the heart because it's not conditioned to
Hmm.
anything except your will and
Hmm.
power to work on something that you believe in for the
Hmm.
people.
100%. Yeah. And this ties nicely into my other question, which is if you imagine the next generation of Palestinian students, what kind of leaders do you hope they become?
Oh, I really look forward to leaders who are strong,
Hmm.
who are ready to lead the upcoming free Palestine and carry that weight on their shoulders and really carry that key that one day those, because a lot of those, even the people in Gaza, a lot of those people are actually families that came from and were kicked out of their homes in 1948. A lot of them are refugees in Gaza that left their homes and still have their keys. And I think a very, very important aspect that I want to see in our kids and our next generation Palestine is to have leaders who are really ready to develop their country, maintain their identity, and fight for their right.
Hmm.
Because this fight for their right as Palestinians to exist in their lands is a fair fight that they
Hmm.
have to really keep pushing forward, because nothing changes if we just keep living under the same circumstances. Nothing will change. But the minute that we start to um, really go against the tide and start saying no, that's not fair, and we're not gonna let this go. You see how the world is like right now in terms of Palestine. This wasn't the case before, but I
Hmm.
think people now are more educated. They made informed decisions to back up the Palestinian case because of what they saw, because of the documentations and the videos and everything that they saw with their own eyes. A lot of people thought it was a struggle, it was a conflict,
Hmm.
it was two views, two countries fighting, but nobody understood that it was an occupation, and those are indigenous peoples
Hmm.
fighting for their right to exist on their land, basically.
100%. Yeah.
And that's the idea that everyone has to carry over, because when you don't have a country, as we have mentioned earlier, you
Hmm.
don't have a back.
Yeah.
Your country is your backbone. They're there to support you. They're
Hmm.
there. The country is there. I mean, on every passport you'll find that says this passport is allowed to enter any country. This passport holder is a protected citizen under international law, and
Hmm.
this country will travel miles to save its citizens and to
Hmm.
protect its citizens. But unfortunately, that's not the case for Palestinians, because they don't have a land, and they don't have real passports, if you want to say it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. We have the land, but it's under occupation. And I think, yeah, for the part where you said we don't have the land, it's more like we cannot have access to it.
Yeah.
Um,
We don't have the leadership.
mhm.
We don't it's occupied. We don't have the power. We
Yeah.
don't have power over our land. We have the land is there, but the land has been taken over by occupiers, by
Hmm.
the occupation, and therefore we don't have a government. We don't have an authority that will cross the oceans to come and save us when we
Yeah.
need. Actually, as I said earlier, it's the opposite. Palestinians are the first ones that get the hit in anything that happens around the world. Anything that
Hmm.
happens, was the
Yeah.
war in Iraq, even the Syria, what happened in Syria, the first place that was really targeted was the Palestinian camp in Syria,
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
example. It's always, they're the vulnerable people. They're the ones with no president, no government, no officials, nothing really. They only have God. Put it that way.
We have a very ineffective quote unquote president.
Yeah, I don't even consider him a president, to be
No,
honest.
at this point,
I
100%.
don't consider him a president. No, no. He's unelected, not
Yeah.
elected president, basically.
Or he thinks, I don't know, he was elected in what year? ages ago.
Oh,
And
he actually he's overdue for election for the past 15 years.
okay, that's another topic that
Yeah.
needs a whole interview by itself.
Yeah, but I'd love to see for our next generation to become leaders, to
Hmm.
understand uh, their powers
Hmm.
and their skills, and understand their rights and their responsibilities, and
Yeah,
really move forward in developing themselves, developing their nation, and thinking forward into how do I really fight for my land and for my right to exist on this land.
100%. Yeah. And this leads me to my other question and last question in this section on the future. What gives you hope when you picture the future of Palestinian education?
What gives me hope? Right now, hope is not yet there. I think
Mm-hmm.
I have hope because the world has started moving.
Mm-hmm.
And when the world, and I'm not talking about governments have done nothing
Yeah.
but just watch the killing and the destruction of a whole country,
Mm-hmm.
the murder of kids, the the atrocities that have been taking place, while the Palestinians are just enduring all of that. So governments are really pointless, and there's no power at all, and there's no care at all. But I do feel the hope when I look and see how citizens are actually standing
Mm-hmm.
for the first time. You see massive numbers of people out for protests.
Yeah.
You see a massive call out for BDS and for boycotting and for sanctioning Israel economically, because that's really what we can do as citizens.
Mm-hmm.
We can contest, we can protest, we can try to persuade our governments and try to push them and push them to do the right thing, of course. At the
Mm-hmm.
same time, try to put some pressure on the economic aspect, and really push for what you call it, apartheid free businesses,
Mm-hmm.
not just people who are appetite free homes. We want to try to push for appetite free businesses, so that the businesses are not even buying from those businesses that are supporting the Israeli army and the IDF and supporting the genocide,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was in Palestine or in Sudan or anywhere in the world where there are injustices, because those injustices exist because there's someone that's fueling it.
100.
And if we don't stop the fueling, the injustice will just keep on going, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question or I went on a tangent, but
No, beautifully said. I feel like
but
there's lots of work, and I know the
yeah,
question might sound naive to some in the sense of like it states, "Oh, what hope do you have for Palestinian education?" Um, but I think when I sort of drafted this question, I was thinking of like how we as Palestinians were among the most educated in the world, and
yes,
how
we
our
are.
parents value education so much.
97% of the people of Gaza
Hmm.
are literate, educated people. 90, that's the
Wow.
highest percentage
Yeah.
of literate people in any country and any nation, to be honest.
Yeah.
And a lot of our people are not just school literate,
Hmm.
that can read and write, but a lot of them are university graduates
Yeah.
and masters and PhDs, and we have a lot of thinkers and a lot of poets and a lot of great minds that could really bring back that prosperity, back to Palestine. But to be honest, the only feeling that I have for a hope for the future for Palestine is because I know that Palestine will be freed at some
Inshallah.
point. God has promised that it will be freed. Now, my question is whether you want to be part of the people that actually free it. I mean, it's going to get freed anyways, because injustices will not live on forever.
Yeah.
There will come a time where justice will
Prevail.
prevail, and and Palestine will be back. But will you be one of those people who can actually raise their heads and say, yes, I was part of that?
Hmm.
Or are you going to be just in the background saying, oh, really? Yes, it did. Yay, I'm happy. So um, Palestine is not the one that will be proud of you because you've done this for it. You will be proud that you were
Mm.
part of this process of resistance and of freeing Palestine and really restructuring education and infrastructure and bringing back that hope to the people that have been deprived of it for a very, very long time.
Yeah. This makes me think of something I read a while ago, which says Palestine does not need you. We need Palestine.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm thinking not just as Muslims, but as humans. If you claim to be a human with a with a clean conscience and supporting human rights, then you need Palestine more than it needs you.
And we need to revive our culture all the time, educating our kids, educating the new generation about our culture, about our
Hmm.
food, about our dance, about our
Yeah.
crafts and tatris and symbols and what they stand for. A lot of our youth don't know that. Before the October 7th, a lot of our youth
Hmm.
didn't understand what the kufiya actually stood for,
Yeah.
how it was structured that way. Why is it knots and is it like a bird? And a lot of them didn't know that. A lot of
Hmm.
people didn't know that watermelon is actually a signifier of Palestine and why it became a signifier. A lot of people don't understand who Hamdallah is and
Yeah.
what Hamdallah stands for. A lot of people don't. I mean, we see it, we know it's Palestine, we just don't understand why. And I think
Hmm.
this is very, very important to instill this cultural knowledge because we don't want it to be wasted. We don't want it to go to waste. Plus, also our language, Salma.
Mm. Yeah.
Palestine is well known for different accents depending on the different city that you're from Palestine. Gazan people speak differently. They have a different accent. People in Nablus, for example, have a different accent. Tulkarem, Yafa, all those different cities, Khalil, and those are richness. This is richness. This is culture, and we have to teach our kids to preserve it and keep it and learn it and use it as well. So yeah, those are very, very important things I think that we need. We can't have a country if we don't have a culture. And
You
we won't
are.
have a culture, even if we don't have a country, a culture will
Mhm.
revive the country in you. I've
Yep.
never lived in Palestine, but I know all that much about it because it's kind of it's in your heart. It's really weird. I've been asked this question before. I spoke one time. It was um Mother's Day, not celebration, but just a Remembrance Day on Mother's Day that
Hmm.
they did. I think it was back in 2024.
Hmm.
So it was a few months after the October 7th. And they wanted to recognize and talk about the Palestinian mothers. And so they asked me to speak. And when I spoke, I talked to them about, a little bit about my background and how I've never lived in Palestine, but yet I just love it. I grew to love it. I was always selected in my school to come up and say poems and read poems, when they have announcements and morning lineups and stuff like that. So I grew with that love and even my kids have never lived there. They've only, and even actually my older ones are the only ones that visit, and they don't remember it because they were so young, right? I took them to visit it, so they know that they have a country and it's called Palestine, and this is what it is. So I took them to Gaza one time, although they don't remember it now, but still that instills in them the fact that they do have a land and they have to remember that. And I also that day I talked about coining a new term, and that was that intergenerational love of Palestine. That the generational love that you just keep giving your kids, and the kids keep giving the kids, and you know what, that's what kills them, Selma. It does,
Yeah.
it does, because I remember I tried going to the 48 lands, the occupied Palestine,
Mm-hmm.
back in 2017. And I took my kids and my husband, and we wanted to go visit. I mean, I'm a Canadian, right? So I can still go visit. And they wouldn't let me in. And the reason was because I had visited Gaza before. And yeah, and I crossed from the Egyptian side, not from the Israeli side, which
Wow.
means that, I paid money to Hamas, apparently. I don't know how, but anyways, that's what they said. And but that's not what bothered them, I think.
Yeah.
And he said to me, I mean, the soldier came out straight out and said, I said, listen, I've inherited this from my mom, and I'm a tourist. I've been to many countries. I love visiting, and I want to, visit the lands. And he said, yeah, we understand that you have never lived here in you've never lived in Israel, he says, right? You never lived here. You never lived in Gaza. You were born outside. You lived outside, but your parents gave you
Mm-hmm.
the citizenship, right? And or if you want to call it the green card, I don't know, whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
that proves that you're from there.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah. And he said, and you've never lived there, and you gave it to your kids when you entered
Mm-hmm.
in 2010 when I took my kids to Gaza. And
Yeah.
I said, yes. He said, and I bet your kids will give it to their kids.
Wow.
See,
Yeah.
that to me was enough to say, you know what? I don't really need to go in. Just that feeling that they hate that we have a right to the land and that we belong to the land, although we don't live there,
Mm-hmm.
have never lived there. But so that intergenerational love of Palestine is there, and you can see it in the eyes of Palestinians. A lot of Palestinians who just want to go. I'm a Palestinian. I can't visit all the lands of Palestine. I only been to Gaza. I've never been to any other place in Palestine, which is a shame, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Can't visit your own country.
I love everything you said. It sparked so many thoughts and ideas. And even me, as a Palestinian refugee born and raised in Lebanon, I've never been to Palestine. My father has never been to Palestine. My grandfather has never been to Palestine. Yet here I am, 3 generations later,
Yeah,
I'm still very much advocating for the right of return. And you said it differently, which is also beautiful, which is right to our land. Um, it is our land, as you mentioned, and the Zionist project was built on the hopes that
we
the
would forget
old that the
it.
old will die and the young will forget, but they
Yeah,
failed. And the moment that idea or that hope failed, the whole Zionist project is failing.
yeah.
And
And it will keep failing. As I said, we need to teach history. We need to teach them to preserve teach us and our kids to preserve their culture so it never dies. It will never die. We will never let this happen. We will never let them take over our country and our land and take over our music. Not only our lands, they're taking over our music, our singing, like even the shittiest things, excuse my language, even like the smallest things, like stupid songs, they're taking it over and
yeah,
they're singing it in Hebrew. Give me a break. Even that, our clothes, our food, everything, they're just
yeah,
taking it and they're naming it Israel. I want to tell you a small story if you don't mind.
go for it. I love it.
So I was in Toronto one time, and I wanted to take the kids somewhere, to eat halal food. And I
Mm,
was looking for a cafe or a restaurant to have breakfast at.
mhm.
And you know how you look for ratings and stuff like that. So I looked up this place and it had pictures of shakshuka, falafel, like even the Jerusalem kak, they call it, the bread, the Jerusalem bread,
Yeah, yeah.
the Quds kak, they call it. And I was like, wow, there's a place that does that. Wow, amazing. So I was so excited. I told the kids, oh, we're gonna go tomorrow. We're gonna have breakfast, and this place is nice and stuff. And then at night I looked at it again just to look again at the reviews. And one of the reviews said, imagine, it
Okay.
said, best Israeli food. And I was like, what? So I was like,
At the
oh, maybe
restaurant?
this person is just writing this to kind of like tick us off or something.
Ah, okay.
So I
But
kept on going in the comments, and there's another person that says, yes, the best place, right from what did they say? Did they say Java right from, no, not from Java.
Tel Aviv.
Tel Aviv, yes.
Oh my God.
From Tel Aviv to the heart of Toronto. I was like, you little, that really made me so upset. Like, you've taken over our breakfast and you're calling it Israeli food, and that's the
Mhm.
best Israeli food you will ever have, the best Israeli. What? Seriously? And that made me mad. I think
Honestly,
so, but that made me so upset.
makes me laugh because it makes me think of, I'm thinking of like a sort of a funny similar story of like when you don't have a character, you try to copy someone else's.
Yeah.
Everyone knows you're fake and that you're
You
trying to
don't
copy
have a
the other
culture, so you
person.
try to steal someone else's.
Because recently
Really?
I read this thing that was mentioning that Harvard has like a sort of like a secret archive place, sort of they're trying to archive Israeli culture, because they're thinking it's gonna be wiped off the map or something, just in case. And then lots of the comments were like, what culture?
Yeah, exactly.
And exactly what culture? They're stealing Palestinian culture. And even the Tatris, there is this one Zionist fashion designer. She stole Tatris and used it on one of her dresses or multiple dresses and then
Yeah.
claimed it as like an Israeli art. And that honestly pissed me off. And it made me think of what you just said. Lots of youth do not do Tatris. Lots of youth think it's time
Yeah, they don't know.
consuming. Lots of youth think that it's, oh, it's like a grandma's art or a tradition. But
And
Tatris
it's
is
not.
such a beautiful thing. And
Yeah,
you're
definitely.
honestly ahead of me because also one of my questions was how do we keep Palestinian students engaged and connected with their heritage today? I'm not sure if you want to add anything else on this topic, but I know that you've said amazing things.
Yes, no, no, definitely learn about our culture and sit with our elderly.
Yeah.
Our elderly are treasure. They are a
Mhm.
huge treasure box. And if we don't sit, and believe me, if I tell you, ha I felt so um disappointed in myself because I had the chance. I lived my with you know I lived for a period of time with around my in-laws, and my
Mhm.
father-in-law was one of the people that actually had to leave their homes in 1948
Mhm.
and made their way to Gaza with his family carrying their stuff. The many stories he told me, the many things that they went through, the hardship. Once they got there, they were also not accepted right away into the new environment and the new city because because we have different dialect, we have different foods. Even Gaza, if you compare it to Asqalan or Jora, you compare it to Yafa, Nablus. Every city in Palestine has different ways and different foods. I mean, we do kind of blend with one another, like we
Mhm.
do similar things, but each city has its own specific dishes, you know what I mean? So that needs a lot of blending. So I feel so disappointed because so many times I said to myself, I need to buy a recorder, I need to sit with my father-in-law, and I need to ask him, and I need to record everything he said.
I love this.
And before you know it, my father-in-law passed away,
Allah yarham.
and I never got the chance to sit and record him talking and saying all those stories. So if you have an elderly in your family, or you know someone, a relative who has lived through that time, I mean, I remember even my daughter has asked my husband one time, I think last year. She said, she asked me as well. She's like, Mama, Baba, she's like, can you tell me how it was in 1948, like how it was for people? And you know what my husband told her? He said, you know what's happening right now? This is how it was in 48. This is how they were bombed, they were kicked out, they were killed and massacred and ethnically cleansed from their homes. And he said, you don't have to go back anymore. History is repeating itself. So again, there you go back to that history and the studying of history, and I'm glad, although I say that with sorrow, I'm so proud of the people of Gaza for sticking around. That doesn't mean the ones that left are less of Palestinians. It's not. It just means that some people can withhold and some people just can't. And لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. At the end of the day, if you can stand and you can resist and you can be there, I respect you and I love you from the bottom of my heart. I don't know if I could, if I were in their place. I wish I was in their place. I wish I could go and be with them and fight with them. And one of the biggest dreams in my life is to go back. That's the biggest dream. Not just because of what happened on October 7th. Honestly, Salma, that always was my dream to go back and restructure education in
Hmm.
Gaza,
Hmm.
in Palestine. That was always my dream. Like I'm studying, I'm doing my PhD. I've worked in schools, I've worked in admin, I've worked at universities, I worked in research because I feel that I'm preparing myself for that day when they need someone to go. I'll be the first one to just jump on a plane and go. Maybe I'd have married all my kids and then I'll be free.
You'll be an empty nester and then you go.
I'll be free to support others, other kids, raise other kids other than mine.
Samah, I mean this sincerely. As you were talking, I felt like I was listening to like in a beautiful way. Like you painted such a nice image in my head as you were speaking, like me imagining Palestine. I don't know, like us hearing that announcement, Palestine is free, us going back to rebuild as Palestinians in the diaspora. Honestly, you built such a beautiful image. It was like pretty descriptive, pretty nice. And it's really sad when our elderly pass away, but that's the cycle of life.
Yep.
And you right now hold the story that your father-in-law has shared with you, and inshallah, you're going to share it with your kids, and you're going to share it with anyone who asks you what do you know from 1948 in terms of like generational knowledge or generational experience? And honestly, these are all things we might not have lived through them, but our ancestors did. And our genetics, whether we like it or not, holds so much of that.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think as an educator, you know that. You know what generational trauma is, you know what generational um our genes remember. It's in our blood, it's in our family lines. And honestly,
Intergenerational love didn't come from nowhere.
yeah.
It didn't come from nothing. It came from somewhere. And
100%.
apparently it's just that love, that thing that we grew with, in our genes, that this is our country. We love
Hmm.
it. We're gonna, keep loving it, although we're not living there. And I have passed this love to my kids. I mean, my daughter is now also at university, very, very involved in the, Palestinian cultural club or whatever club that they call it. And so also, my son. So it's something that I'm proud to say that they
Hmm.
are. And I would hate, and I've seen it, unfortunately, I've seen it. I've seen
Hmm.
youth who just lost their trajectory and they just feel, and I hate to see those people who are negative and what are you gonna do? What difference will I make? I hate those. I really do. And sometimes I fight with my son, who sometimes has that, when we talk about boycotting and stuff. Oh, you think your dollar will make it, those kind of, but he does it to tick me off because he knows how passionate I am about the issue. But this is one thing that I really, really hope that we don't lose the compass for.
Yeah.
And I hope that we keep it in our hearts and in our minds, and we keep it alive all the time, and keep hoping and keep having that dream that when it comes back, when we have Palestine, this is what I'm gonna do. Because
Hmm.
if you don't have that goal and you don't have that dream, you'll never get there.
Hmm.
That's what a goal is. A goal is somewhere that you'd love to be, but you don't know if you're gonna get there or not,
But you
right?
still work towards it anyways.
Exactly. That's the vision.
Yeah.
And if our vision is not connected to our land, to our identity as Palestinians, we've lost it,
Hmm.
fortunately.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Honestly, you moved me to somewhere else. Like for a second, I was just imagining as you were talking. But I want to bring us back to a question, which I think is important, and it's basically, in your opinion and from your experience right now, what do you think, or what forms do you think are possible to bring collaboration among educators despite borders, despite what's currently happening? How can we connect educators across borders to, I want to say, keep education alive within Palestinian students and reshape it the way that you've just mentioned to keep our heritage and and our culture alive?
Yeah, I think I believe it's possible. Again, I said we've done it. We've done it with the resistance. We've done it to educate people about the Palestinian struggle.
Hmm.
The Palestinians themselves have done it through the videos they've shared and the stories that they have opened the world's eyes on the whole struggle of Palestinians. We've done it. We have coalitions. We have international movements. We have coalitions who are moving together. We have countries who are working together, coalitions in different countries. Like we have coalitions here that are working in Canada and US, and we have international coalitions who are working towards to working with for example, when they worked with the ICC and the ICJ, right? Those are all lawyers from all over the world who came together to support the Palestinian people and support the case and fight for their right. And I think, we've done it. We've done it. It's there. We can prove it.
Hmm.
We have come together for BDS. We have come together to form coalitions against unlawful investments, and we're working on divestment calls and letters, and we have come together nationally and internationally.
Hmm.
Like we every day, Salma, if you go on your email, you'll see an email from an organization, a petition that we can sign that has to be sent to this organization, and everyone is just going through and doing it.
Hmm.
You see a revival of the Palestinian cultures. A lot of educators right now are working on how to educate our kids in Canada about Palestine, the
Hmm.
right way to educate them about Palestine. How storytelling is an important one.
Yeah.
That's one thing that we need to focus on, to
Yeah.
teach Palestine through storytelling, by making stories, books for kids about Palestine, teaching them about Palestine, having courses that teaches kids about Palestine, having tatris classes that teaches the children about the culture and about the different crafts and arts and crafts that we do in Palestine. Dabka classes. How many Dabka groups do we have? We have so
Hmm.
many like DEPCA groups, we have DEPCA classes. A lot of people are invested in teaching their kids that. And I think those are very important. And just like how those lawyers and those activists have come together to stand for the Palestinian cause, I think that educators are starting to do that. I'm not saying they will do that. I'm saying they're starting to do that. We have a lot of educators. I met one when I was at a conference in Calgary the other day, who's a storyteller. He tells us stories about Palestine, stories about how the people lived in Palestine and how the Christians and the Muslims were living under one roof and helping one another. And he tells them by names. He tells you the story of Al-Am, I don't know what, and and Al-Amja, and he said they're there, and he has a channel, and he talks to people about those stories, because stories are easier to get to the heart, and they are faster to be remembered and easier to be remembered. Instead of remembering the fact with a date and saying when
Hmm.
Nakba was in 1948, in this day, on that, you say Nakba is when people were taken out. Do you know the story of there's a book that's called Finding Fatma. Have
Okay.
you heard of that book? So she talks about her whole story when she left Palestine to go to Lebanon, and how she lived in Lebanon, and how she was trying to find her identity.
Hmm.
We need a lot of books like that, and we need to get our kids to read. Now, when I take my daughter, she loves reading. She loves to buy books, and a lot of times I take her to bazaars, and we look at books, and I say, "Why don't you read this?" So she picked up a few books just about Palestine and about the story of Palestine, or and it's important. But also, besides books, I think we need a lot of shows like Mo Amir show
Mm.
that really speak to, because not everyone is there. Not everyone is a reader. You have to speak to everyone based on their way of learning and their level, and what they like, and you can speak about Palestine through music. You can speak
Hmm.
about Palestine through songs, through poems, through storytelling, as I said, through books, through series.
Yeah.
Now what's really booming right now is Saint Levant. Everyone loves him, right? The kids love this guy. And, he's singing about Palestine. He's singing about the struggle. Why not? Anyone in anything that they can do, finding out what you're really special at and what your skills are, and using it to really talk about the Palestinian struggle, I think is a strength. And I think we are there, and I think we're doing that, and we need to do that more. And we need to tell our kids not to worry about their futures, because a lot of the kids, believe it or not, Selma, are worried that their future is at stake if they do speak up
Yeah.
about Palestine, is that they will be targeted, they will be kicked out of their jobs, so they choose not to, or they say, oh, I don't want to cause any trouble for myself. What if this happens to me? I still have to feed my family. But you need to learn your rights. And I think a lot of Palestinian organizations now, and I know the organization that I'm part of is planning a lot of, knowledge sessions and education sessions to get the people to be educated about their rights, about
Hmm.
what they can do, what they are allowed to do, and get them to really stand up and say not to be worried. We're always worried,
Yeah.
always. Everyone is always
Yeah.
worried, what if they do this to me? What if, they do this to my daughter? And not just the kids, the parents are the first wall that children face when they start talking about Palestine as they grow up, is their parents.
Yeah.
Parents are so worried about them. They're so worried that they're going to be targeted. They're going to,
Hmm.
oh, please don't say that, mama. Don't talk about that. Just do your thing, study, be successful. That's all that's wanted from you. That's all. Excuse me. Is what I have to say.
Yeah.
It's not right. It's not right. You
Yeah.
should push them, but within safe limits.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I believe in pushing the kids forward. I believe that your kids should learn their rights. They should learn to stand for what is right, because
Hmm.
this is what even our religion teaches us.
Yeah.
If you see something wrong, don't be quiet. Try to change it as much as you can, based on your capacity, in whatever capacity you can, change it. But you
Hmm.
sitting there, that's what we always say, silence is complicity. When
100%.
you're silent, you are part of the problem, because you're
Yeah.
not speaking out. You are part of the issue.
Yeah.
Unless you start speaking out, we can push you from that category to another category and then get you to be an active member of the society after. Up
100%.
levels. Yeah.
100%. I honestly, I love how you're just throwing in so many stories and connecting them um to the answer. And honestly, like I'm looking through some of the questions I've written, I'm like, oh, she touched on that and she touched on that. So thank you for all of that, Samah. Um, I before I end, I want to ask you maybe one last sort of like personal question, and then I'll end
Yeah.
with a question that would sort of bring us back to the future. And that question is, what are some places or experiences that shaped you as a Palestinian educator?
That shaped me as a Palestinian educator. There are so many points in my life, I think, that shaped me as an educator. I think the number one, which I touched on a little bit, was growing up. I grew up in Kuwait,
Hmm.
and we had we would celebrate. Or the Palestinians would celebrate the Intifada Day, and things like that, and we would read poems. So I think this on its own is
Hmm.
something that really got me to learn and understand. And of course, parents have a huge role
Hmm.
in doing this and building this. And my mom was such a pro-Palestinian. I mean, she always helped me when I was younger, when they gave me an article, and they always send me home. They say, you give that to your mom, let her write something out of it, and you read it tomorrow morning's announcement, or a poem, or stand and say it. But it's always mom at home who's kind of like writing it, teaching me, and then I come the next day and I do it. I think this has This is important. We should subject our kids to these learnings and these types to build their personality and build their leadership. At the same time, build their knowledge
Mhm.
about their country and build that love. Start that seed. When you plant that seed planting is not enough. You have to keep watering it, right? You have to keep watering that seed. So you plant that seed in your kids and then you put them through education. And if the education system that you put them through doesn't have that support for them to grow as Palestinians, it will never happen. Without water, that seed will die. So seed is important, but watering it is very important. And not just water that is important. Nutrition is very important. Sunlight is very important. There's so many aspects around you. So the environment you're around, our parents always made sure that a lot of their friends are Palestinian families. So
Yeah.
there you go, right? We were also friends with other citizens, like Arab citizens and other citizens of the world, especially here in Canada. You know,
Hmm.
I've had so many friends from different parts of the world. And what I really found that was very interesting, Salma, is that Palestinians are the best people to perfect accents, Arabic
Like
accents.
fake accents or
No, no, no. Like I could speak Qatari accent. I could speak
oh,
Kuwaiti accent. I could switch to Lebanese a little bit. I could switch
okay.
to Egyptian a little bit. And I think this is something, subhanAllah, it's a survival trait because
Mm.
Palestinians were spread all over the Arab world,
Hmm.
after 1948 and
Hmm.
the displacement of Palestinians in 67 and up until today. I think Palestinians had to really grow thick skin and learn how to integrate themselves in the culture of the
Hmm.
new countries that they're part of, but at the same time, inherit those values and really value their culture that they bring in.
Hmm.
So, and a lot of the projects that we did, even in school, in high school, some of the projects were about, tell us a little bit about your background, because you're not a Canadian, by the way. Nobody's a Canadian.
Yeah.
Unless you're a native,
Yeah.
you're a Canadian. But otherwise, we're all refugees in this country. Even
Migrants.
white Canadians, they're refugees from European countries. We're all refugees. We all come with our, baggage, with not just not bad baggage. I'm not saying
Hmm.
that. I'm saying, and I'm saying we come with our also a treasure box of different skills and different backgrounds and different cultures, and we bring it to Canada, and this was Canada's most powerful tool back when I was growing up. Canada was known for being a country that celebrated different cultures,
Hmm.
a country that appreciated that you come with a culture that could actually give into the actual culture and make Canada what it is today. What makes Canada special is the different cultures that are making Canada what it is today. And same thing with America, but America is a little bit different because they're so patriotic and they so focused on you're being an American before you're being anything else.
Yeah.
Although sadly, Canada has come down to that lately. In the recent years, we have come down to the fact that, oh, no, 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 we're, Canadian is different, and you're Canadian before. And no, that wasn't the case. We studied this at university, Salma. We studied this in high school. Canada's wealth was in the multiculturalism that it holds within the people that lives in it.
Hmm.
Which
100%.
sadly now is kind of fading away. It's becoming more patriotic. Sadly, it shouldn't be. Canada has always been known for being peaceful. I remember when I was at university, I was also part of the Arab Student Association. And through the Intifada in 2001, we were there. We wrote a letter. We sent it to John Chrétien at the time. He was the president. And believe it or not, Salma, he responded to us. He responded
The
to our
Prime
letter.
Minister responded to
The
you guys.
Prime Minister of Canada, John Chrétien, responded to our letter. I wrote the letter on the name of the Arab Student Association. and sent the letter requesting that Canada stands for what it stands for,
Hmm.
which is justice and peace, and they are a peaceful army, and they should be, pulled to keep peace. But now Canada, unfortunately, is, part of it's fueling the war. It's not even keeping peace. It's actually doing the opposite, fueling the war. And it really hurts my heart, because I always bragged to my kids about Canada and about what we lived through, and, about the experiences. And now they look at me and they say, "What are you talking about? Look how they're investing in non-lawful companies that invest in IDF and send money to the IDF, and you know um
They're sending weapons. They've sent weapons.
weapons and money, and yeah, selling weapons, sending weapons. Unfortunately, student exchange programs, it's all about money. It's all about money. And unfortunately, it's not about honor anymore. It's not about honoring who you are as a Canadian, which is a peacemaker and a peaceful entity that is there to make sure that everyone is safe. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore, sadly enough. And I remember fighting my kids so much on that aspect. And now, after what happened in October 7th, I can't defend it anymore in front of my kids. They look at me and say,
Hmm.
where is that country you told us that Canada was, and this? And he's like, we told you it wasn't, but you never listened. But what what it what happened in October 7th has actually brought a lot of light into the floor, and really opened a lot of closed books, and really gave us a new lens on looking at the world, looking at who's really with justice, who's really with democracy, who is really with peace, and who is not.
Hmm.
And that was the biggest test, I think. And Palestine was the one that really discovered which nations were actually fake and which nations were actually democratic, and you know yeah, which nations are honorable, which are not. It was a test, and it was a transparent way to looking at the world. I think what happened in October, after October 7th, kind of like put everything into perspective, and really, um, if you want to say, stripped everyone of their clothes, and everyone just all of a sudden became naked, and you can see what everyone is doing and what every nations are doing, and who's standing with on the right side of history and who's not. Fortunately, but unfortunately, I guess.
Yeah, it's unfortunate in the sense of like Palestinians have to had to relive another Nakba and to live through one of the most brutal genocides in recent human history.
Yeah, in 2023, in the
Yeah,
2000s.
for the
Wow.
world to sort of wake up and for people to many people did join the Palestinian side afterwards after what happened. It's kind of unfortunate that had to happen for people to sort of wake up. But at the same time, as you mentioned, like since Palestine has been occupied since 77 years and even more, um, and it's sort of like the world forgot about it. So the whatever happened recently, sort as you mentioned, sort of woke us up again. The occupation is still there. Nothing changed. Palestinians, even in the West Bank, Palestinians living under so-called
It
Israel.
was just it was just documented. That's it. People are seeing it because it's documented. It wasn't documented back in 48. We
Yeah.
do see documents now, documentaries coming out, but they're just very minimal. But now people
Mhm.
are seeing it. It's like it's right there. It's happening right there. They're witnessing it. How many bombs people witnessed on cameras?
Yeah.
It's just crazy how many massacres were just like really people were there to document all of this, and people see, and they're still lying. Israel is still lying to
Yeah.
their teeth. They're still lying.
Yeah.
People are starving, and Israeli officials are coming out saying, no, it's a lie.
Yeah.
It's a lie. Are you kidding me? I mean, are we dumb? Like, are we stupid? Do we not see what's happening? We have a lot of doctors that have been to Gaza and came out. We know that they're not allowing reporters in because they don't
Hmm.
want anyone to know the truth. Even the doctors that go in, only very, very small number that is allowed to go in, and they have to sign If they go in, they cannot go out and talk.
Yeah.
You know that they sign. Some of them decide that I don't care if I signed, I'm gonna talk anyway, right? But
Hmm.
some of them don't. But some of them have said exactly what happened. I've been in meetings, and I've met people who've been there. I met doctors myself who've been there. Ben Thompson was there. Dr. Tariq Lubani was there. Dr. Nabil Sultan were there. What's his name? Doctor, I can't remember his name now. Uh,
Is it the beast from the Middle East, Dr.
um,
Muhammad?
Dr. Muhammad Mustafa also from Australia. I mean, I met those people and I've listened to their stories. They were there. They can tell you firsthand what had happened. They can
Hmm.
tell you the they can tell you that the people that came to them who were injured, the kids who died in their arms, they could tell you horrible stories about how things are. They could tell you how those kids and those families were targeted while going to get food because they're starved. Things your mind can never imagine. The Hunger Game movie, when I first watched it back in, like, I don't know, like, so many, I think it's been how many years now since the movie The Hunger Games. Wow, it's been a while. But when we were watching that movie, we're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
How could they do this to people? How could they? But you know what? We see it on on real in real life. We saw it
Hmm.
in Gaza in real life. They're being starved, and they close the siege, and then they open it up all at once, and people start running, and then they start shooting people as they run to get the food, as if it's a game, as if you're playing PlayStation, or what you call it, what is that, not Black Ops. There's another game that they play on PlayStation all the
I'm
time.
not a gamer, sorry. But I,
The
I get
kids
what
the
you're
kids
saying. Yeah.
always play that, anyways. But yeah, it's
It,
like
it,
being on
it
a game. Oh my God, you can't believe that this is really happening.
yeah, it's very violent and very whatever happened in Gaza is it feels out of this world. I remember reading someone saying even if the greatest directors and screenwriters sat down at Hollywood and they wanted to come up with something more atrocious and more violent, they wouldn't be able to. Unfortunately, it is one of the most, maybe if not the most atrocious genocides in human history.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
definitely.
I wanted to end with a question that would bring somewhat hope and somewhat the vision back to the future. And I'm sure we're gonna reach a future where at some point lots of people are gonna look back and they're gonna wonder how did this happen, just like with other genocides throughout history, whether um, the Holocaust or even the genocide that happened in Bosnia against Muslims and so many other genocides. So my question is, what is one hope you carry in your heart for Palestine's next generation?
You can do it. You can do it.
Sorry,
um
I'm just laughing because this sounded like the boycott shoes company.
I know. I
But
know.
you can do
That's
it
what they.
you can do it the boycott way, the
Yes,
halal way.
exactly. You can do it. You have it in you. You're a very special nation. You have gone through a lot. You've seen a lot. You've been deprived a lot. But you stood steadfast on your journey, not to leave your land, not to leave what you stand for, to fight for your existence, to fight for your land. And Gaza's known, not all of Palestine is known, but Gaza specifically has been known for being destructed every other year, like every maybe few years. They pick a fight with with the Gazan people. And then they start bombing it left and right, and it gets destroyed. And guess what? A few years later, you look at Gaza and it's beautiful again. People build it, rebuild it, they build things. They had malls in Gaza. Did you know that? They had malls, they had amazing restaurants, they had amazing food. When I visited in 2010, there wasn't malls. I
Hmm.
mean, and I think in 2010 was also after a recent war, like after the 2001, or even later than that, 2006. There was a war in between also. Sorry, not a war, and a threat on Palestine and bombing by Israel that really left Palestine distracted, very much distracted, and rebuilt itself. And then again, they bomb it left and right. They try to really get rid of it completely, destroy everything. But
Hmm.
you know what's really sad, Selma, is
Hmm.
that they are not just destroying buildings, they're trying to destroy human capacity as well. I've seen documentaries on, doctors during genocide, doctors in war, and their testimonies, and, the tracking of how many doctors they have captured
Hmm.
who have been killed by the Israeli military, or they've been captured by the IDF and they're now in prison and they're not letting go of them. And those are the best of the best, the directors of hospitals, the directors of sections, the ones that really have come up with solutions because they don't have electricity. They came up with solutions because they don't have equipment. They came up with solutions because they couldn't do the traditional things that they're doing because they don't have those anymore. They came up with innovation, and
Hmm.
they became innovative, and you know what they're trying to do? Not just destroy the infrastructure of the hospitals and schools. They have killed so many professors, Selma. They have killed so many amazing doctors who are schools of knowledge in Gaza, who are there to really train the newer generations to take over. And they think that if they do this, there won't be any more this knowledge base for people to base us. But what they don't know is that, we will persevere. Palestinians will persevere and they will learn, because you grow from hardship more than you grow from normal life, from living a good, happy, comfortable life. Hardship teaches you a lot. They
Hmm.
have, I mean, those institutions there. I know GLIA is one of them. GLIA is just an organization that works with doctors, brings in doctors to Gaza to help with aid, and they bring in sometimes equipment. They
Hmm.
support. They have opened clinics, but they had to come up with stations, food stations for Palestinians. It's not their job. It's not their scope. They had to dig wells for the Palestinian people, for the Gazan people, so they can drink clean water.
Hmm.
This is not their job. That's not what they're there for. This is not what GLIA stands for. But GLIA had to do what they had to do to make sure that the people there are surviving.
Yeah.
And so knowledge, yes, is in the minds and the hands and the skills of skilled, smart, individuals that they have managed to murder and kill and jail. But at the same time, our generation will grow to be those people again,
Hmm. Inshallah. Yeah.
inshallah. And my hope is in that generation that will work on themselves, that will build themselves, that will strengthen themselves, and they will get the knowledge that they need. They will
Hmm.
go back and they will build Gaza. Just like how I've never lived in Gaza, and I always have that dream of going back to Gaza to rebuild it in my own way, education way, right? Others will come back and build it in their own way.
I love that.
Not just the people who are living there, but even the people who have never been there. They love the land and they will do anything they can. And this is what kills Israel. This is the thing that kills Israelis, is the fact that we are still attached to that stupid land. What do you want with this land? We've destroyed you. We've kicked you out. You haven't lived there. You have no roots there. You have no family there. What do you want with the land? No, we still want the land.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
we'll never give up the land.
Hmm.
And we'll never give up our existence. We'll never give up our rights. We'll never give up our culture. Or we will never give up our identity. and our flag and our land and ancestry and our history. And we will live to tell the story to our next generation and then the generation to come. And you know what? I always tell my kids, and I hope the other parents are doing the same. I
Hmm.
always tell them, what do you want to be? What do you want to study? Okay, how is this going to help your community?
Hmm.
How is this going to help your community here where you are in Ontario, for example? How is it going to help your deen, your Islam? How are you going to really use Islam to make things better from your own field of specialty?
Hmm.
And how what you're going to do and how are you going to use what you're going to do to support Palestine?
Yeah.
Those are all three important ones because without the community, people won't know you. They won't understand who you are and what you stand for. And if you give a lot, people will listen to you more. So
Hmm.
you need that. You need to build that in your kids. And then you need to also build the relationship with God, the relationship with Allah, relationship with that superior power that really puts all those values of faith, strength, patience, love, unity, really puts those values and those values and gets you to see the world as I will say a moving Quran, like ayat. Everything in the world is a vow. What do you call it? A vow, not a vouch. Um, oh my God, the word ran from
Are you thinking like,
um oh my God, on the tip of my tongue. Uh, but anyways, to prove the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of God, of a Lord that is there, that is fair. And then also again, your community, as I said, because people need to see who you are.
mhm,
But in order for the community to see who you are, you have to build yourself from your religion and learn the values of being a good Muslim. And then also learning what it's like to be a Palestinian, learning about our heritage, our history, who we are, and then using all those three to move forward. So back to your community, we'll learn more about who you are as a Palestinian if you're giving it,
yeah,
right? And then you learn from being with God that you need to do this because this is your right, because
yeah,
you have a right to exist. And so all those three pillars are very important in the growth of your children, of any children. This is the number one parenting tip I give is you need all those three. You can't just teach them, oh, love Palestine, do a poem for Palestine, yeah, that's enough. No, you have to give to your community. You have to teach yourself. So number one is your relationship with God. Teach
mhm,
yourself, teach your kids how to be humans,
mhm,
what it takes to be really a khalifa in this world, in this land that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put us in. And being a khalifa means you're building, you're making things right, you're helping, you're supporting, you're making sure that this life that you live in is the best it can be. That's what being a khalifa is in your community. And then using all after you do those, when you come to speak about Palestine, people will listen to you. If you're educated and you give your community, people will listen to you.
mhm,
The less educated you are, the less giving you are in your community, nobody will ever listen to you
mhm.
or even hear you speak, even if you have all the money in the world. Because some people will tell you, if you have the money, people will listen to you. Not necessarily true.
Yeah.
I hope that was enough. Sorry.
I love all of that. I feel like my question was more, what's your hope for the future generation? And honestly, also, I had another question in my mind, which is what advice would you give to the future generation of, Palestinian students? And you touched on that beautiful, like you are ways ahead of me. And I feel like what I love about thinking about the future of Palestine is we as Palestinians, unfortunately, somewhat we have been forced to constantly keep on talking about our past. And as you mentioned, constantly have to show proof of our suffering and things we've been through. We haven't been given the space to imagine. what a liberated Palestine would look like, to imagine the path to liberation. And I mentioned
Your role in the upcoming Palestine as well.
exactly. And I mentioned this to someone else. When I initially started thinking of this project back in 2022, I was thinking of the Arab Spring, basically what happened in Syria and Egypt and other countries where they suddenly had a change in government, I would say, or the regimes, or just a sudden change in politics. And people didn't know what to do with this freedom. And that's something I think of for us as Palestinians. What if we wake up tomorrow and by some miracle Palestine is freed? What would we do with this freedom, right? How
Yeah.
would this look like
We need
for...
to be prepared. We need to be
Mhm.
prepared.
Yeah,
Your life as a Palestinian is always in preparation mode.
yeah,
What am I going to do? What I'm learning, and how am I going to use this? When it's time for me to use it. I
exactly.
think that's also my message to anyone, any not just educator, any
Mhm.
professional is looking at, okay, what do I need to learn so that when it's time for me to go back, that I'm
Mhm.
ready to
Yeah.
rebuild, to be part of that, a rebuilding of Palestine, and and the liberation, and
Mhm.
the building of the generation, of the society, of everything. Everything will need restructuring there. Healthcare, education, judicial, everything needs rebuilding there. Everything needs rebuilding.
And you...
Unfortunately, everything was
Mhm.
brought down to rebels.
And yeah, yeah. And this is specific to Gaza, but even in the West Bank, unfortunately, they don't have autonomy to, practice things as we do as Palestinians. But also, as you mentioned, we're building those skills so that we use them when we go back to Palestine. And this is what these doctors are doing that you just mentioned, whether
Yeah.
it's doctors at Glia or Dr. Muhammad Mustafa and so many other doctors, and even those lawyers that went to the International Court of Justice and they're
Yep.
raising this case of genocide against I don't want to say his name, that Zionist trash prime minister, and the IOF and those Zionists basically. So honestly, lots to reflect on, and education is at the core of everything that we do, and education is at the core of any country that wants to rebuild itself, and education is important to build awareness and um it goes into like beyond just thinking of the lines of oh, Palestinians versus Israelis, but also how can we be united as Palestinians? How can we not let certain
Because
factions...
Palestinians don't have one religion. There is no nation that has one specific religion.
Mhm,
Every country, every nation has Muslims, Christians, Jews, different faiths, atheists, different faiths. I mean, the whole idea of having a faith-based country is just crazy. It's just crazy.
yeah.
And that's when they keep, the question, when they ask you the question of, do you believe in a two-state solution? I say, there's no, why two states? It's one state, it's Palestine. Every religion has lived under it for many, many years in the past. We can still do that. It's happening all over the world. You're still in Canada and you're still living as a Muslim Christian, you're in Europe, everywhere in the world, you have that. There is no, even in Saudi Arabia,
Mhm,
there are Muslims, there are Christians, there are everywhere. There is no faith-based country per se. So why
yeah.
do I have to make Palestine and Israel because the Jews need to have a country? No, the Jews can live. The Jews are Palestinians.
Mhm,
Some of those Jews, other than the immigrants that immigrated from Europe, and who are really the top class of Israelis right now, are the
mhm,
European Israelis.
mhm,
Because there are Jewish, or the European Jewish are the top-notch Israelis in Israel, but
mhm,
there's also the European, East European are under, and then there's the Arabs, and then there's the Indians, and the Ethiopians, and the black, they call them a flasha, black
mhm,
flasha. Those are also Jewish, but they're last class citizen basically.
mhm.
And this classism is there in Israel, and it does exist, believe it or not.
Hmm.
So you're basing this country on one faith, and even that's not fair,
Yeah.
believe it or not. So a lot of, and I've read through history and I've seen so many interviews, even even when they interviewed Ishaq Rabin, when they interviewed what's her name? Astaghfirullah al-Azim.
Are you thinking someone Palestinian or someone?
No, 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 no. She was the Israeli Prime Minister. Oh my God.
I'm
Um,
so bad at names. Wait, I think I know whom you're talking about.
Astaghfirullah al-Azim. I just watched her video just not too long ago.
Is it Golda Meir?
Um, Golda Meir. Yes, 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 Golda Meir. Golda Meir. Um, Golda Meir said it. She said, "I'm a Palestinian. I held a Palestinian passport." It's
Yeah,
true.
for those who came before 1948,
Yes.
they came
Yes.
as
She
refugees to
was.
Palestine. Yeah.
Yes, and she got a Palestinian passport, and she was a Palestinian. If you look in the old towns in Palestine, if you look in 48 lands, the occupied Palestine, you could still find sewerage rings, you know, those sewerage blocks that they're always in the ground for
Yeah.
sewerage,
Yeah.
or sewers to go down. You will see that it says Palestine on it, and it
Oh,
says
okay.
the
I think I've seen the video. There was a video on it
yeah.
on Instagram, and then it showed how like they didn't change. I know what you're talking about. The top of these like
Yep,
sewage
yep.
holes or whatever, they didn't
The
they
lids
didn't
for
fill
the
it. Yeah.
sewers, and yeah, yeah, and those are like really stupid examples. But even that, we had even the money.
Oh
We had
yeah,
a Palestinian currency. We had,
coins.
like, so they were living there. They were living there before those European Jews that came from outside, and that whole project of Zionism came into place. They were living fine together. They were living under in one land under Palestine. So I believe it can be
Can happen.
one country.
I
It
mean,
and it should be. Palestine
yeah.
has, again, no religion. There are Arabs who are
Mhm.
Jews as well.
Yeah.
There are Arabs who are Christian. There are Arabs who are Muslims. There are Palestinians who are Muslims, Jews,
Mhm.
Christians, and Baha'is, and I don't know what, and
It's a very
Samites,
diverse
and,
country. Yeah. And even
um,
if we think of just the religious history of the country, Jesus being a Palestinian Jew and then later on
yeah,
bringing on Christianity, and it's a very diverse country. And I think I wouldn't say I have no worries in terms of religion. Unfortunately, religion has been weaponized to divide us, but that's not the case for Palestinians,
yeah,
and that's not the case for
yeah.
Palestine. So that was honestly not one time have I had a conversation with someone on Palestine and it just ended in like 10 minutes or half an hour, even an hour. It's always
It's gonna keep
on and
going.
on. We have
Yeah, oh
so
my
much to
God, we were
share.
talking for so long. I
But
know.
you know what? T Time flies by. Like I'm just thinking of like every time I look at the time, I'm like for example, one time I checked it, it just 1 hour passed. And now I check it, I'm like almost 2 hours have passed. Wow, like I didn't feel
Yeah,
it.
yeah. And
Um,
you know what? Before starting this interview, it's like, oh, I don't, I'm tired. I don't know if I can do this.
I could
I'll
see you
try to
so
finish it in half
energetic.
an hour. You know,
You're
you
so
can still
energetic right
see it
now.
in my face. I'm still tired, but because you're so passionate about it, just keep going.
Oh,
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
I can see your energy right now. I feel like you want to do one more hour. Honestly, I'm done. But
we're good. We're good. Thank you.
I've exhausted my questions. I love this topic and I know that so many
And
people
I
have so
thank you
much to
for
share.
doing this. And I
Thanks,
really,
Samah.
really hope, and I will hold you to that you really keep going with this project, because a lot of the times, Selma, the struggle is not starting a project. The struggle
Mhm.
is continuing it and finishing it.
100%.
That's the real struggle. And I will keep pushing you. Like I'll keep asking, what happened with that project? Because
Hold
a
me
lot of the
accountable.
times, yes, because honestly, a lot of the times I can't tell you how many research papers I've started and I didn't finish, and
Mm,
they're just there sitting on my desktop, and I, sometimes, because things happen and you move on and you start working, and then you say, oh, I'll go back to it, but you never do,
yeah.
really. So it's really important that you have started this, and this is amazing. And I think it's a hopeful way to look at things, and to bring people back to focus on the main goal, which is how do we support Palestine?
Hmm.
How can you, in your capacity, be a tool to supporting Palestine
Hmm. Yeah.
in the long run?
Yeah. Thank you for that,
So
Samah.
hopefully, yeah, you can do it. I know you can do it.
Thank
I
you.
know you.
I started this project 2023, stopped working on it 2024, and as you mentioned, like it's always good to better late than never. And inshallah, I want you to hold me accountable for sure. And
Yeah,
again, thank you for sharing your voice, your vision, and honestly, your heart with us today. This project began with a simple question, which is what future do Palestinians imagine for our homeland? And today you helped us take our very first step toward answering that question. So, to everyone
inshallah, you have the
watching,
pleasure to meet other people who have much nicer things to say than
you
me.
shared so many
And
beautiful
yeah,
things.
thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Samah. To everyone watching, thank you for joining us on literally day one or video one of We the Palestinians. There are thousands of other futures to document, as beautiful as Samah's story is, inshallah. And we're just getting started. Thank you so much. And if you want to stay tuned for other videos and whatnot, follow us. And yeah, thank you so much, Samah. And we'll stay in touch for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, you can say it now.
Thank you. And
And
free Palestine,
free
always.
Palestine always.